see it. The point of collecting data is to make actionable decisions on it, right? So the first thing in collecting data, especially if it requires some manual collection, I think, and when I say data, you turn the data into KPIs. So you're measuring how many boards per hour you're printing, or how fast you're printing banner, or how many banners you're shipping per day, or something like that. You know, those could all be KPIs that you want to talk about. The first thing is, you know, when you're trying to figure out, or when we're trying to figure out KPIs for our business, it's like, is this data necessary to collect? So if you're thinking, let's say you're tracking like how many pieces of stickers you're cutting on, you know, your Suma cutter, and you never do anything with that data. Well, if it takes manual like input to track it, like if you're going every day to like write it down, if it's not automatic, if it's automatic, you can throw it in a folder, I get that. But if it's not automatic, you got to ask yourself, are you going to do anything actionable with this? If the answer is we're never going to do anything actionable with it, it's waste, right? You're wasting time, resources, somebody's talent in that process. And so ask yourself what's actionable. The second thing that I think is really important with KPI data is you have to have a balancing pair of metrics. Right? So KPI is key performance indicator. Okay. And the point of a KPI is like you set a threshold. And so when it starts to get above that threshold or below that threshold, it turns red or green, appropriate to, you know, whether it actually does or whether you just note it. It's a quick indicator when something isn't going well or something is going really well, you know, in your business, mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's the point of it. If it's not doing that, if it's not indicating that, then, you know, again, why? Why bother with it? Okay, so always ask yourself that question. Do we even need to track this? But then what you want is a pair of like dueling KPIs, if you can, that balance each other out, okay? And what I mean by that is, let's take printing, for example, okay? With printing, I might say, like on our rigid printers, how many boards per hour are we printing on average, right, over a shift or a day or a week or whatever? How many boards per hour are we printing? And then how much waste? How many boards did we throw away in that day? Okay. And those KPIs will balance each other. And so people, you know, are ethical. They're not going to cheat, I don't think. You know, we never find cheating in the system, but incentives matter, right? And so if we only had how many boards per day can you print, then and that was the only KPI, or how many boards per hour can you print, and that was the only KPI, then our press operators, if we come to them and say, why aren't you printing more? Why aren't you printing more? Why aren't you printing more? They're going to have the inclination to say, well, maybe I can speed it up a little bit, which might lower quality. Maybe, you know, if something has an ink drop on it, you can say, well, they're buying 100 signs, only one of the signs was bad. I think that's good enough. And then we'll ship that, right? We'll get as many of these boards out as we can. Maybe they don't stop as often to wipe the print heads, to, you know, double check quality. So we add that second KPI in there, which is a waste board, which the waste boards are tracked by somebody else downstream, right? Or they're kind of verified by that, or the managers. And so you can't really increase speed beyond a certain point without increasing waste, right? Yeah. And you can't really, you know, you can't do waste on its own, because you could make it so there's zero waste, but then your speed just drops. Right? You're wiping print heads before every board prints. Sure, well, you're not outputting anything. And so those KPIs will balance each other.
Yeah.
And that's what you're looking for everything, I think, throughout. That's what I'm looking for with everything throughout our organization. What's two KPIs that can kind of push against each other, that when they're both going up, they're both green, we know we're doing well, and that's ultimately going to lead to the success of our business.